and you hold on to me. And I hold on to you, and you hold on to me. And Jesus, I hold on to you, and you hold on to me. Oh, Jesus, I hold on to you, and you hold on to me. And Jesus, I hold on to you, forever. You hold on to me, 'cause you're my anchor forever, my shelter within the storm. You're the deliverer, you never falter, 'cause you're the rock I stand on. My anchor forever, my shelter within the storm. You're the deliverer, you never falter, 'cause you're the rock I stand on. You're the rock I stand on, 'cause you're the rock I stand on. And I hold on to you, and you hold on to me. And Jesus, I hold on to you, and you hold on to me. If the mountains are where you hide, oh, how far I'd scale the valleys if you grace the other side. Oh, how long have I chased rivers from lonely seas to where they rise against the rush of grace descending from the source of its supply. And in the highlands and the heartache, and neither more nor less inclined, I would search and stop at nothing. You're just not that hard to find. And I will praise you on the mountain, and I will praise you when the mountains in my way. You're the something when my feet are. So I will praise you when the valleys are the same. No less confident in the shadows, no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven when my heart is. In the highlands and the heartache are the same. Oh, how far beneath your glory does your kindness extend the path? Oh, may your feet rest on the sunrise, where you speak the sinner's past. Oh, how fast would you come running, and just a shadow me through the night. Trace my steps through all my failures, and walk me out the other side. For who could dare ascend that mountain, that valley hill called Calvary? But for the one I call Good Shepherd, who like a lamb was slain for me. And I will praise you on the mountains, and I will praise you when the mountains in my way. You're the sun and where my feet are. So I will praise you when the valleys are the same.
pray together. Our Father in heaven, we are honored to have you as the one who is there with us no matter where we are, in the good times and the tough times. And you have promised to be there. And as we hold on to you, as we draw near to you, you draw near to us and hold on to us. So we declare this morning that I am holding on to you. And we thank you for being there in every moment. I pray, Father, that we would be more and more aware of your presence with each day, with each year that passes. We love you. We're here to worship you. And we're grateful to you for all that you've done for us, in us, and what you want to do through us. May we allow you to work through us. In Jesus' name I pray these things. Amen. Have you ever gone back to the place where you grew up? You know, maybe you moved out of the neighborhood that you grew up in as a child and you went back and saw it. A couple weeks ago, I was down in San Diego with my mother. It was her birthday on October 24th, so I went down and we went to dinner, and she wanted to go, of all places, to Marie Callender's. And I said, okay, Mom, Marie Callender's, if that's what you want, I'm offering you anything in San Diego, but you want to go to Marie Callender's, which was way over in the San Carlos area, which you don't know, but it's right below San Diego State, okay? And that's where we kind of grew up in my teenage years. And so we decided after dinner we were going to drive to our house that we had when we were there and see what it looked like. And we had quite a time finding our house. It was like, oh, this isn't really familiar. I could not believe that hill that went up by my high school that entered into our neighborhood. It's like, I don't remember that hill. But it's always been there. Nothing has changed. We found our house, and it was obvious, you know, once we got there, but we couldn't remember street names, and it's like, oh, there it is. All that to say that this morning we have some guest speakers, and they're going to tell us a little bit about their lives. It's Sandy Morse and her husband, Italo Nashinton. And, you know, down there in Peru, they keep their names differently like that than we do here. So Sandy still has her maiden name, her parents' name, and Alan is right behind her, her father, and Andrea, her mother. But Alan and I were in the same youth group at the same church in San Diego, so that's kind of how that all ties in. But I'm telling you that when she was 12 years old, they moved from Turlock down to this area and ended up going to the Upland First Church of the Nazarene. And some of you remember that prior to meeting here, we were meeting at Upland First Church of the Nazarene. And while we were there in 2017, they came and were there 1 or 2 Sundays, but they've been home now for about, well, it's going to be 3 months before they go back. And that's what missionaries do every now and then. They take what we would call maybe a furlough and come home and kind of reorient to where they came from, although Italo is from Peru, so that's his home. And but all that to say that this is Sandy's home church. But everything has changed. And it's not familiar to her as it was, you know, and she had a great time in the youth group, and now she's grown up and working with this organization called Youth with a Mission, and she's here this morning. They've been coming here faithfully while they've been home, and we want to honor her and let her and her husband tell their story of what they're doing. And we'll talk more about that at the end. But Sandy, if you'll come, and Italo, I don't know how you're going to do this together, but if you'll come, they have some times that they're going to point a laser pointer at the screen, and we figured out this morning it doesn't work on the TV screen. So that's why we have the third screen down in the middle, so you can see what they're actually pointing to. Thank you. It's great to have you. Welcome.
Hi. Yeah. Hello. Yes. Okay. Oh, no, todavía. Good morning, everyone. We want to give thanks to God for the opportunity. Okay, yeah. The Pastor Jim for this time, beautiful time. And we want to share with you about the mission in the Amazon. Okay, and yeah, this is my way.
So my husband mostly speaks Spanish, but he's been doing really good at his English, so we wanted him to give it a try. Thank you so much for letting us share with you this morning. Going to give you a little bit of a background about us and also tell you a little bit about what we do down in the Amazon jungle in Peru. We truly do live in the Amazon jungle. It's kind of funny to think about, but we don't live directly on the Amazon River or work on the Amazon River, but we live and work on a tributary of the Amazon River. So as Pastor Jim said, I attended the Upland Nazarene Church since I was 12, very involved in the youth group, in children's ministry. I also attended Point Loma Nazarene University, which is where I went on a LoveWorks trip between my sophomore and junior year, 3 weeks in the Philippines, and that is where I received my call to missions. After I graduated from college, I also worked as the secretary at the Upland Nazarene Church and then became the children's ministry director for a time. So very involved in the Upland Nazarene Church when I lived here. In 2010, I felt like it was a good change in my life. And my mentor at the time, Christine Sudica, encouraged me to do a mission school with Youth with a Mission, otherwise known as YWAM. I wanted to see if God still had a calling on my life for missions, the calling that I had received back in 2001. And I chose to do my mission school. The mission school is called a Discipleship Training School, a DTS, and I chose to do it in Iquitos, Peru. They have them all over the world, but I really wanted to learn Spanish. I knew a little bit, but I really wanted to get better at Spanish. And so I looked for one specifically in Latin America, and I ended up going to Iquitos, Peru, in the middle of the Amazon jungle. And during my school, I was there for about 6 months, and during that time, I so strongly felt that God wanted me to go into missions full-time, 100%, and specifically missions in the jungle. I wasn't just in the jungle for those 6 months. We traveled around different places in Latin America. But I always wanted to go back to the jungle. My heart was just in the jungle. And so after my school, I came back here to California. I sold all my stuff, and I moved down to Peru. Pastor Jim preached on that. I remember it was last week or the week before about like going all out for God. And I literally did that. I really thought it was pretty crazy at the time, but here I am 11 years later, and I've never looked back. The best decision, one of the best decisions I've ever made, to just give it all for God. And so basically since the beginning of 2011, I've been in missions full-time down in Iquitos, Peru. Italo, however, has a different story than me. Italo was born and raised in Iquitos. Italo. Yeah. He'll answer to anything. Yeah, so he was born and raised in Iquitos. He was working in construction for about 20 years before we met. In 2014, we had a fire at the YWAM ministry facility there in Iquitos. About 1/3 of the 3rd floor burnt down. And you don't want a building to not have a roof in the jungle because it rains very frequently, and you never really know when it's going to rain. So when a third of the 3rd floor burnt down, it would rain, and all of the water would go all the way down the stairs and everything. So it was not a good time to not have a roof. So, so guess who they contracted to put the roof on the 3rd floor? And that's how we met. He had experience in missions. He had a heart for missions, but he hadn't yet taken the plunge into missions. So we got married. He did his mission school with YWAM, his DTS, and now we're both in full-time missions down in the jungle. Oh, I'm sorry. Was this a slide that was up before, or was it the missions one? Okay, sorry. Kind of forgot about the slides. Go ahead. So we have 3 daughters. Ellie is 4, and we have twins, Emma Rose and Anna Lee, that are 2, and they are little missionaries as well. We have taken them on 15-hour boat rides. We've taken them on 14-hour car rides. They've slept in makeshift beds. They've slept in tents. They've slept on the floor, in the jungle, in the city, in people's houses, in different countries. And through it all, they maintain a level of joy and excitement that is unexplainable. For those of you that have met my daughters, they're very friendly. They love giving hugs. As some people say, they know no stranger. Emma Rose is a little bit more shy, but still, once she warms up to you, very loving. They're all very loving, and they really, they were made for missions. They love meeting new people and traveling to different places, so we're very blessed to have them as our daughters. As a family, we work and minister in communities along the river in the Amazon jungle of Peru. So the river is called the Marañón River. This is one of the communities along the Marañón River. This community is called Lisboa. And just in the little part of the Marañón River that we work on, there's probably about 50 communities. And that's just one little river and a little part of that one little river, and there's a ton of rivers and a ton of communities. The jungle is really huge. The people that live in the communities that we work in are called mestizos, which means they're mixed. They're not tribal, but they're not really city folk either. They're kind of in between, so they don't have the tribal customs anymore. They don't dress in typical tribal wear, but they're not, they don't live in the middle of a big city either with everything that involves. They live very simply. They live off of the land. They hunt, they fish, they plant crops. This is, so the first picture is a mother with 2 of her children. This lady actually has 6 children. And that's in a community called Florida. And then the children in the next slide are children in a community called Las Palmas. And communities are vary in size. Going back a little bit to how the people live. So they literally live off of the land. They go back into the jungle to cut down trees, to make planks, to make their houses, to make their boats. This is a house in the community of Las Palmas, where the picture of the kids was. So that picture of the kids was when the community is dry. So they were on dry land. They were standing right in front of this house. So this house is now in the water. So the river rises and falls throughout the year. And so when the river is low, the communities are dry. When it rises, I wouldn't say all of the communities, but most of the communities flood. And so the people, they could just row their boat right up to their house. It's not really the safest way to live because there are like snakes in the water and stuff. So, and as you can see, there's no railings around the edge of the house, and children do live here. So it's dangerous as well for the children, keeping them safe during the flood season. So like I said, they also use the wood to make their boats. This is a canoe-style boat. Sometimes they row these boats. But most commonly they have what's called a peki-peki motor, and the peki-peki is for the sound it makes, peki 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 peki. And it's what people here would say a weed whacker motor. So has a long pipe off the end. I'll use this thing. So you can see the motor here and there's this kind of like pipe-looking thing that goes off the back, and then there's a little tiny propeller, and that's what makes the boat go, and the pecky sound. Yes. So they cook with fire still. There are some people, very few people, that use propane tanks and stoves in the jungle. Most often they cook with fire. These children are preparing, well, one is washing the dishes and the other are preparing the food for the mom who's cooking inside the house on her fire stove. It's not really a stove, but it's kind of like a fire pit. So that's mostly how they cook there, is with fire. Communities can have anywhere from 50 people to 1,000 people, and anywhere in between. That community of Las Palmas, where the house was flooded, there's only about 4 families that live in that community. So it's a very, very, very small community. Whereas this community, Soterito, this is a community of Soterito, another community that we work in. I would say maybe 200, 250 people in this community. They're really differing sizes, and always fluctuating, because sometimes people move away, sometimes people will come in, they'll have more babies than the children, then they'll grow up and then they'll have more babies. So it just, it's always fluctuating, but each community is very different, very unique. Many of the communities already have established churches, and when I talk about churches, I'm not necessarily talking about a church building. There are several communities that already do have church buildings, but an established church just means a group of believers meeting together. So many of the communities do have a group of members that meets together, but there are still many communities that don't. Sometimes too, the group of members might move away to different communities that will leave that community without like a church group. So that's just a little bit about the place where we work, specifically out on the river. So Itlo and I live in a city called Nauta. So this is Nauta down here. This is the name Nauta. And this little star right here is Nauta. It's right on the river. It has about 27,000 people. So it's a city. It's bigger. But we used to live up here, it's a little star up here, in the city that's called Iquitos. And that's where the YWAM base is, up here in the city of Iquitos. Iquitos has about 500,000 people. So it's a much bigger city. Iquitos is in the middle of the jungle. Nauta's in the middle of the jungle, but as you can tell by their population, they're still quite big. Electricity, depends where you live if you have running water. But there is a road from Iquitos to Nauta. The little line is the road, Iquitos to Nauta. And other than that, those are the only 2 cities that are connected. In order to get into Iquitos, you have to either fly in an airplane or take a boat to get there, because it's surrounded by water. And Nauta, you get there by a boat, or you fly in an airplane to Iquitos and then take a car 2 hours to get to Nauta. So I say now we live a little bit more in the boonies. And so we're a little bit farther away from an airport now, and a boat. So if you were in the capital city, you could either take a 2-hour plane ride to get to Iquitos, or you could take a 24-hour bus ride to a port, and then a 5-day slow boat ride to Iquitos. So it's better just to take a plane. So we moved to Nauta. This river here is the Marañón River. That's the river that we worked on. So when we lived in Iquitos, we would always have to take a car ride to get to Nauta, and then get on a boat to go out to the river communities. So now we live just about 5 minutes away from the port. So it's just much easier to do ministry, and it really is. I would say maybe it's more meaningful living there, because now we have closer contact with the people that we work with. So we can just get out to them easier, and they can get to us easier. 2 hours in a car may not seem like a long time, but it's not like here you just hop in your car and drive 2 hours. It's public transportation. You have to wait till the car fills up, and then it's kind of like stop and go the whole time, and swerving around potholes and slamming on your brakes for the dogs that are crossing the street. And it's very interesting 2 hours in a car. So yeah. So this is a picture of me back when I was single. I'm right here in the middle of the kids. I have a huge heart for kids and for children's ministry. So when I was single in missions, I would go out by myself, actually, go out by myself to the river communities. I already had a relationship with the churches there and stuff, so I didn't feel so alone. But I would go out and I would work with the kids in a couple of the communities. And because the churches were not working with the kids, it is not very common for the churches to work with children. It is more common for them just to have their adult service in the evening, and the adult service does not include any kind of children's ministry. It's just the adult service. The kids may go, but they will either just fall asleep, or they'll go home and fall asleep, or they might go to a neighbor's house that has a generator and has a movie going and watch the movie. So I would go out and I would do children's ministry with the kids, teaching them about God. And the job got too big for me because number one, I couldn't get out there as often as I would have liked to have gotten out there, and as often as the children need. I mean, they need something constant, and I couldn't be out there constantly. And also, I started getting requests from other communities farther upriver. Oh, I hear you're doing kids ministry with such and such a community. Come to my community. Come to my community. And I thought, wow, I cannot be in all these places at the same time. And just thinking, even if I were to go, once a week to 50 communities, that's once a year. The kids are getting kids ministry. That's obviously not good. So I attended a leadership school through YWAM, and I came up with a plan to multiply myself, training people in the communities, in the churches, to teach the children. So when Italo and I got married, it was kind of like the little nudge that we needed, and God put a burden on his heart for children's ministry as well. And together we started training Sunday school teachers and planting children's ministry. So there, when you do children's ministry, it's more commonly known as Sunday school. And because most communities don't have any sort of a Sunday school, we were actually planting the Sunday schools, planting the children's ministries. So this is a group of the teachers that we've trained. So what we do is, first Italo and I go to the communities that already have established churches. That way we are connecting with the pastor. This is a pastor. This man right here is a pastor in the community of the 9th of October, 9 de Octubre. And very good friend of ours now. He helps us out a lot. So we go and we meet with the pastors and we get them on board with what we're doing. Of course, we ask them if they would like to have children's ministry in their church, and they, of course, say yes. And we say, okay, we'll get you started. And so we make sure that the pastors are on board. The pastors are actually the ones that choose their teachers, because we want them to know, they know their members better than we do. So they find out who's passionate about the children's ministry, who are faithful members of the church and everything. So they decide who is going to be trained. In this case, this pastor's wife right here, she was, her and her older daughter, who's not in the picture, were trained in this community to be Sunday school teachers. And so what we do is once we meet with the pastor and we get them on board and they choose their teachers, then we go ahead and we get the teachers trained. And this is a process. This is not like a quick training, let's just train them and go to the next place. This process actually takes about 1.5 years because we want them to have time to process everything. We want them to have time to implement everything. And so we want them to feel capable of doing what they're doing. Not like, oh, I can't teach children. I don't know how to. We really want them to just feel like, okay, we can do this. We have the tools and to go out and do it. So, so we do a training. We usually do a 3-part training. It really depends on how much time we have, the availability of people. But it's usually about a 3-part training. And it's really different in every place that we do it as well. There's different levels of education. So sometimes it's hard for them to grasp just pulling out important parts in a story to be able to tell the children. Sometimes it's a struggle them even just reading the Bible. So it's not like we can just say, you know, read this chapter really fast and we're on to the next thing. I mean, sometimes it takes a good 15, 20 minutes just for them to get through, you know, the Bible story or just a little part of the Bible. So like I said, it's definitely a process doing the training. So we teach them how to develop a lesson to teach the kids. We teach them how to share or tell a Bible story in a way that captivates the children's attention. It's very common for them to just grab their Bible and just read it, which is you're going to lose the kids in an instant. I mean, they need to be in a creative way, an exciting way, and for you to be looking at them so that you know you're paying attention to them. And I don't know how many of you have ever done kids ministry, but it's definitely can be a challenge. And also considering the fact that they teach all the ages in one group. I mean, hopefully they'll eventually get to the point where they can separate into classes, but at least when they're starting out, they teach all of the ages together. And babies come, the siblings, they'll bring their babies, not their babies, I'm sorry, their little brother and sister, and all the way up to teenagers. The teenagers sometimes are a little bit more shy about coming in, but they're still there, you know, listening. So really, it's all ages. And we teach them songs, we teach them games. We try to do everything as hands-on as possible so that they're getting a feel for how to do it and that they just really feel capable of teaching children once they leave our trainings. Since financial resources are limited in the communities, we show them how they can do children's ministry with just what they have on hand, what they have in their houses, what they have just out in the jungle, what they have around their community, because we want them to be self-sufficient. We don't want them to be dependent on us. Oh, we ran out of this. Oh, can you give us this or buy us this? Or we want them to be able to do children's ministry even when we're not around. So we really focus on teaching the Bible in the jungle is like the perfect place to teach the Bible, to be able to relate to the Bible stories and things that happen. I mean, fishing and boats and complete darkness and plagues, you know, lots and lots of insects. It's perfect place to teach these things. They understand these concepts and they can just take the kids out and show them these things. I mean, their parents go out every day and fish with nets. So they know what fishing with a net is to be able to share those Bible stories with the children, and the kids can really relate with that. So we really focus on being self-sufficient. We also, after we're done training them, we give them a little bit time to implement the children's ministry, and then we visit them. We do surprise visits. They don't necessarily know that we're coming. And so we show up and we want to see what they're doing. And the results have been amazing. This was in that little community of Las Palmas. It just has about 4 families. And the one where the house was flooded. And so this is in that community. This is Diana, and she is just a natural teacher. She's really, really good at teaching. And so we surprised her and saw what she was doing with the kids. And then this is the community of the 9th of October, where you saw the picture of the pastor and his wife. This is the pastor's wife teaching their group of children. It's a much bigger community. This one has probably about 500 people. Tons and tons and tons of kids in this community. This is just a small portion of the kids. That's yes, the dogs also go to church. So we have been really pleased with the results that we've been receiving from the doing these children's ministry trainings. We also get requests from churches in the city as well. So not only do we do trainings in the river communities, but also in the city. We've done several trainings in Iquitos. We haven't done any in Nauta yet. We just barely moved there a few months before we came here. So we haven't done any in Nauta yet. But this is a picture of a training that we did in a city called Requena. Requena is about the same size as Nauta, about 27,000, 28,000. And we were asked to go there to be special presenters in a training. And we actually, we went there thinking it was all going to be organized, and nothing was really organized when we got there. And we almost turned around and went back to Iquitos, and we were really glad that we didn't. We were able to coordinate with one of the pastors there to get the trainings organized, and teachers from 18 churches showed up to sign up for this training. We divided them into 4 groups, and we did, so each group had 3 full days of training, so we did it over a span of 3 weeks. And this was the group of teachers that we trained. It was a really amazing time. We learned that the culture in this jungle city was very different from the culture in Iquitos, whereas Iquitos, people have a hard time making a commitment, and if you have some sort of a training or something, it's hard to get them to show up on time. So we were kind of guiding our time there based on that. And, like, okay, we'll start half an hour late because everybody's gonna, show up late and everything. And people showed up before it was supposed to start. So I was kind of like, oh, now how are we gonna fill in this time? Because they actually showed up early and we weren't used to that. But we were so glad that we stayed and just figured out how to do things, because it was such an amazing time, and we just saw some really good outcomes from this. We weren't able to do follow-up with these trainings, but we were able to get feedback from the teachers at the end of the training. And even some of these teachers were brand new. They were going to go back and start kids ministry at their church. Some were seasoned teachers that have had years and years of teaching. And I just remember one of the teachers in particular that I thought, I have no idea what I'm going to teach her, because she's a really good teacher. And at the end, when I said, okay, can you give me some feedback? What have you all learned and everything? And she was the first one to raise her hand. And I thought, okay, we'll see what she learned. And she said, the thing that most stuck out to me was, you can't make kids sit still for an hour. And I thought, wow, that's a really good thing to learn. So basically, her and her group of teachers just annoyed themselves for an hour saying, sit down, be quiet, listen, sit down, be quiet, listen. And she learned, you can't do that. You have to move kids from activity to activity. You got to get them up, do an activity with them. You got to share the story in exciting ways, lots of visuals and movements and everything. And I just thought, that is a perfect thing for her to learn. So I totally believe now that the children's ministry is much more effective now that she's not making the kids just sit still and quiet for an entire hour, that she's actually, that they're actually learning a lot more now, the children. So that was a really exciting thing that happened during this training, along with lots of other amazing feedback. So, and even the teachers, Requena is even more in the middle of the jungle, because from Iquitos, we took a 2-hour bus ride to Nauta, and then we got on a 4-hour fast boat to go to Requena. So they're even more out in the middle of the jungle. They don't have an airport or anything. You have to get there on a boat. And and they said that they had been praying for someone to come and train them. So we were an answer to that prayer. So we were really glad that we stuck around and did the trainings and got it all worked out. So this is a mixed group of kids. I say mixed because my kids are in there. Can you find them in the group? This is in one of the communities where we're going to be doing future trainings. When we go back, we have teachers trainings lined up in 11 more communities. So we chose 2 communities as hubs, like centers, where we will go out, and that's where we will have the trainings, but the teachers from 5 or 6 other communities are going to be coming to that community to do the trainings. So this is one of those communities, Solterito. You saw a picture before of this community. And we are... Italo and I are very passionate about children's ministry, about kids knowing God. And why kids? Because kids are the future of the church, the future of, we can just be drastic and say the future of the world, but the future of each country. And really, it's easiest to reach a person for Christ when they're a child. So this is why children's ministry is so important, because we need to reach people for God. It's easier when they're children, and what better way for a person to grow up than knowing Christ as a child and growing up with all of those values and principles, knowing God, having a personal relationship with Him from a very young age and growing up in that, and just seeing the impact that they'll have on their world as a Christian. So this is the passion that we try to infuse with people that we come in contact with, and specifically it's the passion that we try to infuse in the people in the jungle, so that they will have a passion as well for teaching children in their communities, in the churches, in their neighborhoods, wherever they're at. This is what we wanted to share with you all this morning. A little bit about us, a little bit about what we do. You all received cards this morning, I believe, when you walked in. Has a picture of us on the front. Has some information on the back. And I think Pastor Jim is going to be sharing a little bit more about that. So we just want to say thank you so much for letting us share with you this morning. And I also want to say, too, just a quick little promo for a kids ministry at the church. We have been very blessed with the kids ministry here at this church. So just want to say thank you for making kids ministry a priority here at this church. Every Sunday, my kids love coming to Sunday school. One of Emma Rose is a little bit more shy, so she always cries before she goes in, but the teachers say she settles down within a couple minutes. So, but the other 2, they just run into the Sunday school class, and they love their teachers. And so we've just been very blessed by the importance and the priority that this church gives to children's ministry. So thank you for that.
So you have these cards, and what is a good thing to do with this, if you're wanting some suggestions, is to take this home and put it on your refrigerator so that you remember to think about this couple and pray for them and their family as they're doing ministry. There's also some giving information on the back. Youth with a Mission has a way of each person has to raise their own support, and so that's what they do there, and we are their home church, and I think we need to be supporting them. So I want you to disregard the giving information they have on the back, and if you are interested in giving monthly towards them or weekly, however you want to do it, we as a church are going to start sending them monthly whatever we collect here for them. So all you have to do is whenever you would write a check to the church or give, you just designate in your envelope or on your check that a portion of your check and the money goes towards them. And then each month we will send a check to them through the right source, and you will get credit for giving, if you need that, on your income tax forms through our church for giving to this ministry, okay? So we want to encourage you to do that. Today as well, we want to just bless them with an offering. So we have our giving in the back, and you didn't know about this beforehand, but now you know about it. So if you feel inclined to give, you just put something in the envelope today, and we'll make sure they get that today. All right? She's our own missionary. Yes.
Also, on the back, it also has an email address. If you'd like to receive our newsletter, you can send an email to that email address, and we'll put you on that email. That we send out newsletters through email, and then also we can do it through snail mail. So that you can. There's different ways to contact on the back.
Yeah, and her email is Sandy Loves Pigs. Can you explain that for a moment?
She loves pigs. Well, I just think they're a cute animal.
Are there pigs down in Peru?
Sometimes.
Okay. At their new house they're getting ready to go back to, they've only been in it for a few months, she's told you. When they go back, they have a little bit of property around them, and they want to get some chickens and kind of live off the land and sell eggs and do things that way too. And Italo is a good builder, so he'll build a good chicken coop, I guess, and let the chickens run around. They also are in the process of having a boat built. Is the boat going to be similar to the ones we saw in the slides, or is it a little different?
It's going to be bigger and with a roof.
A little bigger with a roof, and that's in process. And they talked about the fast boat, and they talked about the little boat with the motor. Peka. So they want to get a motorized boat, but not the fast boat, because the fast boat is kind of like fast boats here. When you go out on the river, they take a lot of gas, and so when they took the fast boat, it costs them more money, but they're in the process of getting their own boat and their own motor. So, we might want to help with some of that as we go along as well. Anyhow, it's just a delight to hear your story. Thank you for coming and joining us as we've taken away your church as it was. And now here's who we are, okay? And she's our own, and it's wonderful. These girls, Ellie, oh my, she's lovely, the 4-year-old, and Emma Rose and Anna Lee, like they said, they know no strangers. All you got to do is just show them a little affection, and they show it right back, and that helps them, I'm sure, in their ministry. It's a beautiful thing. We're going to pray, have a closing song, yeah, and that'll be it for this morning. Thank you. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for the way that you call each of us to minister around us. We're all ministers. But then you have some, like Sandy and Italo, that receive this call to give full time. And we thank you for that call on their lives. I thank you for the call on my life to preach the word. And truly, we know that from our own personal experience, most of us who are here came to know you when we were young, as children. And we pray, Father, that many of these children that they're training teachers for will come to know you early in their lives and make a full commitment to you, to live for you, and to understand that that's what we're all living for, is the eternal life, to be with you forever, the God who created us and made us and loves us. I pray today that we would be encouraged by what we've seen, what's going on around the world. And I just pray now that we would do what we can as a church family to be supportive of this one who is from among us. Thank you for raising up Sandy in this church. And we pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
And I can just sit, and I can just sit and wait for all your goodness. Hope to feel your presence. And I could just stay, I could just stay here in your arms and hope to feel you. Hope to feel something again. And I could hold on, I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. And I could be safe, I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home, never let these walls down. But you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. And you have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You'll lead me. You'll lead me, Lord. And I could hold on, I could hold on to who I am and never let you change me from the inside. And I could be safe, I could be safe here in your arms and never leave home, never let these walls down. But you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. But you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You'll lead me. You'll lead me, Lord. And I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. And I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. And I will be yours, oh, I will be yours for all my life. So let your mercy, oh, I will be yours, Lord, I will be yours for all my life. So let your mercy light the path before me. But you have called me higher, you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. And you have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. And you have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. And you have called me higher, and you have called me deeper, and I'll go where you will lead me, Lord. You'll lead me. You'll lead me, Lord. You'll lead me. You'll lead me, Lord. You'll lead me.
Thank you. Again, if you want to give today, just make your check out to Claremont Community Church, or if you're giving cash, there's some envelopes that we have back there, and just write on the envelope or on the memo of your check, Sandy. Think of beaches, sand along the river, and we will make sure that money gets to them for their ministry, okay? We have next Sunday our Friendsgiving banquet is what we're calling it this year. Not banquet, but picnic. We don't have a place to meet really inside for turkey, and we don't want to make it where everybody's dishing into the same dish, you know, with all this COVID stuff. So we're giving you individual boxed lunches, okay, with turkey sandwiches, potato salad, I think, and individualized chips that you get to choose from, and a bottle of water. And we're going to have pies and in individual packaged things. It's going to be great, just like you like to eat. So come next week for that. We'll do it out here, and we ask you to bring your own lawn chair for afterwards if you can. We'll set up the easy ups and have them all over. And we'll just have a fun little celebration before Thanksgiving. No yams. Maybe some pigs. Oh, no. That's it. There's some other announcements there.